Welcome to Career Lunch Break, everyone. Today we have Abbey Vogt with us, and Abby spent more than 6 years in education, most notably as a middle school teacher before realizing that she wanted more flexibility in her life. So she stepped away from the classroom and she started supporting an online business behind the scenes, which led her to discover the world of virtual assistants. And interesting fact, Abby is my VA. And as I was getting ready to plan this season, I messaged her and said, "Hey, you're usually editing these for me, but I'd really like you to be a guest because I think it's so interesting how you have decided to leave one career and break into something that is entrepreneurship, really. It's working for yourself and it's working and supporting many different business owners in a really dynamic way. So, Abby, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. We kind of turned the tables on you. Let's just start a little bit about you. And you originally planned to be teaching as your lifelong career. What changed?
The typical things with teachers, like the burnout, the parents, the workload, the lack of work-life balance, all of that. But I remember when I had the conversation with my principal, telling her that I was going to resign. I was like, I love doing all of like the typical type A, like fun teacher stuff of like creating projects and decorating the calendars and decorating my classroom and just like creating all of the different things for the kids to do. And I feel like if that's my favorite part of this job, there's something wrong. Like, my favorite part should be showing up for the kids every day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
did enjoy that part of it too, but I just knew that this wasn't a career that I could do long term. Like, I enjoyed it for the years that I was in it, but I got to that point, and, like, my last few years were during COVID, and that was difficult on everybody, obviously, but I just got to a point where I realized, like, I don't wanna do this for 30 some years. I
Yeah.
want more flexibility. Work-life balance is super important to me. I realized that during the last couple of years, and it's just not something that you have in teaching.
Yeah. So was there like a specific moment? Because I think a lot of times, I work with a lot of pivoters and, most people arrive at the decision that they want to go do something else because there's a catalyst, right? Something's no longer working. And I'm wondering for you if it was like a slow burn sort of realization or if there was like a moment where you just went, oh my gosh, this is not it anymore.
I think it was a slow burn. Like, I was enjoying the fun parts of it, but, like, overall as a career, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this isn't for me. My coworkers even were like, "We can tell you're not happy." So, I think it was a slow burn. It wasn't just, like, all at once, but I had no idea what I wanted to do or what I was gonna do after that. I just knew, like, this wasn't it, and I had to
Mm,
make a change.
yeah. Was it easy?
Making that decision?
Yeah.
Absolutely not, because, like, I'm a people pleaser to my core, and so just thinking about having that conversation with my principal and with my colleagues and all of that, like, it was a very difficult decision, but, like, ultimately, I knew I was gonna be a happier person and, like, at home too, like, I was gonna be a better wife, I was gonna be, like, have less of a short fuse with my husband, all those little things because
Yeah.
I was going to be happier and I wasn't going to be exhausted at the end of every day. And so it wasn't an easy decision, but, like, I knew it had to happen and I had to do anything to make it
Yeah.
happen.
One of the things that I end up talking with people a lot about is sort of this idea of 80% and go. Like get to something where you feel 80% certain and then you need to jump because you're never going to have that 100% certainty. So in your case, you chose to leave something that was for sure you knew you had your teaching job and you jumped towards something else. So how did you pick supporting a business or like did you just leave and go, I don't know, I'm just going to go figure out what else to do? Did you already have something in mind? Like what was that process like for you?
Honestly, I, like, have a terrible story because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like, I had no idea what the options were. I had no idea what, like, was calling me, what I was passionate about. Like, I had no clue. But, I took, like, a couple of months off afterwards, and, like, I'm very fortunate that financially my husband was able to support us during that time, but I, like, knew I needed to do something and, like, I wanted to bring in some income, and so I tutored, and I had, like, tons of contacts from teaching, and so all my teacher friends were recommending me, and I made, like, great money tutoring for a couple of months while I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And then I started, like, seeing online all, like, the teacher transition type things and, like, here's different pathways that you can choose and stuff. And so I started kind of exploring that world of things that I could do, and then I saw a job opening for one of those teacher transition things, and I like, again, terrible story, like, I applied and I got the job. But
It's a great story, actually.
It's like, I'm so lucky, but
Yeah.
I researched that company and I took the exact things that they were teaching teachers to do in order to make a career pivot. And I
Yeah.
did that myself to try to stand out. And
Okay.
so it's like, it's a lesson in like researching the company and all of that type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I applied and I got the job. And then that was like working for an online business. And then I learned like the ins and outs of online businesses. I like really became like, I wore so many different hats in that job of, like, customer support, community management. I eventually started doing, like, the social media, graphics, and things like that, and so I was doing all the things that, like, a virtual assistant would typically do, and so then that kind of led me to where I am now.
Yeah. How did you I hate the imposter syndrome thing, but I imagine breaking into this new job and then they just start throwing things at you. Did they train you a lot? Did you feel like you were a fish out of water, so to speak? Did it feel uncomfortable? Because I think that's another thing is like this idea of discomfort and discomfort being a bad thing. But I tend to think it might be it's part of the process, right? When you go into something new, you're not going to know how to do everything. So how did you work through that? Did you have imposter syndrome as you were adjusting into this new role? Tell me about, like, what that looked like to truly start in something completely different.
Yeah, no, I definitely had imposter syndrome and I still have a little bit of it today. But I was lucky enough that like the people I was working with were also former teachers. And so like they understood. They understood where I was coming from. They understood like the training, so to speak, that I would need in order to catch up. But also it's
Yeah.
like it's things like managing an online business behind the scenes. You have to do that type of admin work in teaching too, and pretty much every job of like responding to emails and, like, talking to customers or, like, vice versa, it'd be parents and education, but it was, like, things that I don't wanna say that weren't that difficult to figure out, but, I mean, you kinda just figure it out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you break into this role and you're doing all this new stuff and you're working for an online business. And I mean, today I know you work with quite a few different business owners supporting different types of businesses in different industries and things like that. So walk me through that. Like you were working for one organization and then you've expanded and you have a full-fledged business now. So when did you do that?
Yeah, so that business that I was working for right out of teaching actually got acquired by a bigger company, and so then I just kind of had to figure out, like, my next move, and like I said, like, all the things I was doing and learning was, like, the type of stuff that a virtual assistant does, like, they just manage the back end of an online business, whether it's, like, emails, social media, videos, just whatever they need. And so I learned a lot from that, and, like, we had a VA on the team, she's amazing, and so I kinda picked her brain, like, after that situation, but then the next day, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna take what I've learned from this job, the industry that it's in, like, what I know now," and, like, lucky for me, it was a career coaching type of business, and so I learned, like, how to stand out and how to
Yeah.
get the job type of skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, the day after I got laid off, so to speak, I was messaging different business owners in that same field, like, "This is my experience from this exact field that you're in." And then another thing, like, I knew the biggest thing was you have to stand out. You have to do something different than what everybody else is doing, because I was working with transitioning teachers for 2 years, and the biggest thing was you have to stand out from the crowd because everybody else is doing the same thing. And so I was like, how can I stand out to these business owners? One, they know like name recognition, they know like the company that I was coming
Mhm.
from. They can recognize that. And then two, like if I show that I'm actually invested in what their business is all about and what they do personally, that's going to impress them. So I researched those companies of like technically competitors of my past employer. And I don't know why people think this is so cool, but I found this like free color picking tool online where it's like basically a color dropper. So you can like grab anything from the internet and you can find out the exact like hex code of what color that is. And so I did that and I found the brand colors of all of these different business owners and I created like samples, like social media posts and different things that would go with their brand directly, like from their exact content. And I was like, "Hey, this is a sample of what I can do for you." And, like, shout out to my first client, she was so impressed, she's like, "I need to have a conversation with this person. I already have a VA, but nobody has ever gone this far as to actually put in the work to research me and my business. And so she gave me a shot and then she referred me to her friend. Referrals are a huge thing in this business. And then it kind of spiraled from there.
I'm pretty sure you did that for me too.
I did.
You did. Yeah. And I remember it and I was like, "Oh," like it was because you know what it is, and this is a really good takeaway. Like even if you're not running a VA business, like if anything you're trying to do in life is show somebody what the other side of the possibility is.
Right.
And, I mean, knowing the experience you had, that was impressive in and of itself because I knew you knew the type of business that I ran.
Right.
But then for me to know where I struggled and what I was doing to run a business by myself, and then for you to come in and be like, look, I could do this for you. And I'm like, oh, that's what I want. Right. Because when you're doing everything alone, to have someone show that they understand it and I do I mean, huge compliment to you, like, this is one of the things I love most about Abby is you're so predictive in the work that you do, and I think that that goes such a lot like, whether you were being a VA or you were working in HR or whatever it was that you were gonna decide to do in your life, I think you are really good at anticipating what someone is going to look for or what, like, if something's a 10, how do you take it to an 11? And you bring in that extra idea consistently. And that type of extra effort, it really stands out. It differentiates you. And to your point about standing out and, you observe that that was an important thing to be able to do. It is, but I can't tell you the number of times where I see, someone might think about standing out, but then it's kind of more theatrical or it's more like almost a caricature of standing out. Like it's a little too much. And yours was just really smart business application of let me show you exactly what great could look like. And it's like a free sample at Costco, right?
Right.
Like you taste it and you're like, "Oh, yes, I need to buy this," and out you go with, your 48 pizza slices that you
Yeah.
probably didn't need, right? Um, so I think the way you approach that, yes, was smart for your business, but it's also just a really smart thing as a businesswoman, as someone who's running her career to think like I'm gonna solve a problem, I'm gonna show somebody how I'm solving that problem and make it really easy for them to visualize what the end result is gonna look like if they work with me. And anybody could take that piece of
Right.
advice and
'Cause, like
apply that.
right, and, like, in the job search in general, like, with a resume, like, I know you always say to your clients, like, the resume's job is to get them to wanna have a conversation with you, and that's exactly what I did by, like, that cold DM. I was just like, "All I need to do is get a conversation with this person, and then I can sell myself from there."
Yeah. Here's something else too, like just picking into how we came to work together, because I think these have a lot of parallels, is we didn't actually work together right away. So you sent me that, and I wasn't like, okay, yep, let's sign up and start working tomorrow. Like it wasn't the right timing for me for a bunch of reasons. And so talk to me a little bit about like, how do you work through that? Because that could feel like rejection, but also it's the whole, it's not a no, it's just a not now kind of thing. So you're running your own business. How do you manage that? That feeling of you're putting yourself out there, you're sort of making an offer to somebody, and maybe they don't pick it up in the way that you want them to at the exact time you want them to.
Yeah.
How do you stay on top of that? How do you keep a positive attitude and kind of keep grounded?
I mean, I was definitely bummed, like, not hearing back from you right away, but maybe
Thanks,
it's like
Abby.
a maybe it's like a negative part of the imposter syndrome, like, I still had that, and so I was just like, "Oh, well, I mean, I'm not a VA, so that makes
Yeah.
sense." You know what I mean? But again, like, my first client, like, I started working with her pretty quick, and then she referred me to a friend, and so I had 2 clients right off the bat, and then I had a friend who, like, wanted to start to build a business, and so I kind of had her, and, like, to be completely honest, like, I was just kind of in the mindset of, like, I need to make this work because I want this flexible job, and so I'm like, "Okay, like, she's not replying, I'm gonna go and find other clients." And then
Yeah.
eventually reply, and I was like, "Oh,
Came
yeah."
to my senses. Thank goodness, because I don't know what I was doing before you were around, but it wasn't good. So,
It worked
um,
out.
for people, I know we're talking about this VA business, and I kind of pause, and I know we've sort of touched on like social media and things like that, but maybe for people who aren't as familiar with VA, because my sister actually was a teacher before, and she's a VA for somebody.
That's right.
And so, and she works for an HR organization, and she really has morphed more from, I would say, being like a VA doing more administrative tasks to really being almost more of a chief of staff for the woman who runs this company because, you know, good decision making and someone you can trust, and like they start to understand your business. So just maybe you could talk a little bit about what being a VA looks like day to day for somebody, because it is an option for people who are looking to make a change in their life. And if they haven't considered it, this could be a rabbit hole that they might want to go down a little bit more.
Yeah. So for each of my clients, I have 5 different clients right now. It's kind of different, so it's all over the place. It's kind of like, what do they need from me to help their business run smoothly behind the scenes? So, like, video editing, social media scheduling, social media graphics, emails, be writing, I even do. Right.
Design.
Yeah, web design, just like managing the back end of everything pretty much. And so that looks different for everybody. And it's basically just like, what do they need? But some VAs will specialize just in like one of those areas. And so, like, you could be like a copywriting VA where you just like write blog posts and things like that. I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, if you will. So I'll pretty much do anything. And if somebody asks me, hey, do you know how to do this? I'll figure it out. Because, like, it's more fun if you have a lot of different stuff going on, in
Yeah.
my opinion. But yeah, it looks different for everybody. Like, have a couple of clients that I kinda, like, work on retainer, and then other clients I do, like, hourly type stuff, but you just, like, keep track of your hours, you charge based on that. Like, I don't know, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
fumbling this
You
right
know,
now, but when you said, like,
no,
chief of
no.
staff, one of my clients actually calls me his COO, and so it's kinda like that. It's like an
Yeah.
online business manager is another title for, it's kind of like a stepping stone, like, you start as a VA and you just do, like, admin tasks, and then you get to an online business manager, like an OBM. I feel like I kinda am an OBM for most of
Yeah.
my
I
clients at this
agree.
point, because, like, strategy also kinda comes into it, and, like, I had those 2 years working for an online business before I went freelance, and so I learned, like, the ins and outs of that world, and so I do have, like, opinions and ideas on different strategy to help grow your business, and so I help with that as well, but
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest surprises I've had working with you, because when I set out, there's a lot of services that will reach out through LinkedIn and say, oh, you can hire a VA for $7 per hour and they'll, follow your SOPs. Well, if, you're a solopreneur and you don't have SOPs, and now you have to sit down and write SOPs, and it's sort of one problem turns into another problem, and it's really not the same experience as working with someone like yourself, where, like you said, you have opinions, you have a perspective. I can, I don't know if anybody's seen The Devil Wears Prada, where Meryl Streep's character walks through and she's like, that thing that I had at that place one time, get me that. Like, I feel like you have an artful approach to when I send you and I'm like, I want to do this. And you somehow turn it into something real that, probably was just a tangled ball of yarn at best coming from me. And I think that,
same person though, like, I have other clients, they just, like, kinda word vomit ideas, and then, like, I turn them into something, and I enjoy doing that, like, that's my
yeah,
job.
yeah. But I mean, you're good at it. And I think as people think about, whether it's just this is interesting for them to hear about, or if they're like, oh, wow, I kind of like that. I hear so many, especially educators, who are saying things like, I love solving problems. I love building relationships. I love creativity. A lot of times they arrive at, so I want to be a project manager. And I think that honestly, what you're doing, like if you have a good head on your shoulders, if you're creative, if you can look at somebody's ideas and be like, what about this? Or, just work with very limited information to put something together, which I think especially a lot of educators are quite good at. You kind of have a really good footing to do something like this. Um, Tell me this though. You moved from teaching, you moved to running your own business. Was there anything you had to unlearn from teaching that, was kind of a habit that you had built as an educator that didn't serve you very well in your VA work?
100%. The feeling that everything's on fire all the time. Like, not everything's an emergency. And my first job, like working for that online business after teaching, I had to learn that throughout those 2 years of not everything's an emergency. Cause like I would get like a new task and I would like drop everything I was doing and do it right away because that's what I was used to in teaching, or like the kids are waiting for something, or the parents or admin's waiting for something. And so just kind of like slowing down and realizing like I can do things on my own time. And sometimes things do need a quicker response and like I can manage that too. But managing my time in a new way where it's like I can schedule it out like different days. And so when I first started, I don't know if you remember this when we first started together, but I was kind of just like, I felt like I was like on call for all 5 of my clients at all times. And so like I would do like an hour here for one, an hour there for another. And my brain just felt like so scattered. And I was like, there's way too much going on. And so about like maybe 6 months to 8 months into being a VA, I need to figure out like a more structured schedule and realize that not everything is on fire. Not all of these businesses need my attention on the exact same day at that exact same hour. And so I like emailed my clients and I was like, I'm going to work on your stuff on Mondays and Tuesdays. I'm going to work on your stuff on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then Friday to be like a catch all day. And that has absolutely changed the game for me because I don't feel like this sense of things need to get
Yeah.
done right now. And that's
Yeah.
something that I tell my husband all the time because his patience is like 0. He's like, "Oh, I have to do this right now." I'm like, "No, you don't. Like, it's not on fire. We're okay."
Right. But I think the magical part that you did in that, like, 1, okay, so time blocking, but 2, it
Yeah.
was sort of communicating those expectations or that framework up front. So I know what my days are where you work on my like, our pre-planned days where I know Abby's gonna be working on my stuff. And if I need something else, I could always send you a text and be like, "Hey, I
Oh,
have
yeah.
this thing," or right? And you jump on it, but you're right. It sort of it blocks out where your attention goes on which days, which I imagine has to make just information for 5 different organizations feel a lot more contained, controlled, approachable, focused.
Right, because you have 5 different businesses and 5 different business owners that you're working with, and so everybody's different, everybody's got a different personality. You have to figure out how those business owners want their business run, and so it's different, like, some days are, I don't a little more relaxed than others, and, like, there's type A people, type B people, like, it's just a mix and a balance that you have to figure out, so that's a learning curve for sure.
Yeah. What, so you've been doing this for a while, and I'm curious, maybe, you said you did this for a work-life balance shift, and I imagine, like, what does success look like for you? Because right away, my mind's like, "Oh, she's so good at this, like, she could keep growing, and there's probably only so many clients you could take." And I'm like, "Well, Abby could hire someone to work under her, and she could have another VA who she mentors or something." Like, do you have aspirations to grow this bigger, or have you decided that this is something that stays in a certain space and size because it affords you a certain lifestyle? Like, walk me through how you're thinking about your business when you look at it like 2 years from now or 5 years from now.
Yeah, I definitely, like, struggled with the idea of I should want to grow and I
Yeah.
should want this to be bigger, but I've just come to realize over the past couple years, like, that's just not me, that's not important to me, that's not what I want to do with my life, and so work-life balance truly is, like, the number 1 goal, and I have that now. Like, could I take on another client or 2? I could, but do I need to? Do I want to? Not necessarily. Do I wanna grow to, like, have a team? Like, no desire to manage other people, to be completely honest. Like, this is my own thing and I love it.
Yeah.
But I again, like, I'm very fortunate that I was able to sit down with my husband when we realized that I wanted to give this freelancing thing a shot, and we were like, "Okay, how much money do I need to make in order for us to, like, continue to live our
Yeah.
comfortable life that we've had?" And I got to the number of clients that wasn't gonna stress me out because I knew that that
Mm,
was something that teaching did. It was just like I was overwhelmed all the time. I knew I didn't wanna get there, and so I don't take on too many clients, and I actually dog sit on the side to supplement my income. So I watch dogs, I walk dogs, and that
I
supplements
am
my income, and we got to
blown
that.
away by the number of people who I know who dog sit on the side. Like, it's
I'm like,
amazing
"Great."
the number of conversations I've had. I didn't know this about you, and I feel like the number of people who I've talked to lately who are like, "And I also dog sit." Like, who knew? What a
It's
fun
amazing.
What a fun extra way to make some money.
Yeah, it's amazing, and, like, we take dogs at our house, I'll go house sit at other people's houses, I'll
Yeah.
to work a couple hours in my VA job in the morning, and then I'll go, like, walk
Mhm.
a dog at lunch. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's just, like, I figured out what worked for me, where I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna be overwhelmed, where we were making enough money, and it
Yeah.
makes it happen.
I mean, I know not everybody's in a partnered situation, but a lot of times when you're making a change in your life, there's a partner or a family. Especially I know I work with a lot of women, and so for women, a lot of times if you've entered maybe a time where you have children and you're thinking about like spouse and kids and all this stuff, and walk me through a little bit. That can be a hard conversation to have with a partner when you're thinking about I'm making this change and how do we not just go blah and run at it and sort of hope that it works, right? And one of the things that you said is you talked about the amount of money we need to make or like to be comfortable. Like you use some different words that oftentimes I even have with clients when we're talking about jobs. Like what is that amount that you need to make? The money that you need to pay the electric bill, pay the mortgage. And then like, what do you want to make with, what does that look like for trips or versus time off and flexibility? So did you guys use some sort of formal process? Did you go through a checklist of any sort? Did you just sort of have this conversation and go, I know what I'm making as a teacher, so I want to kind of be around here? Because it does feel like this is like the longest prompt into a question, by the way, too. Um, you wrote something to me as we were getting ready for this. You said you're allowed to change your mind about your career even if everyone around you is climbing the corporate ladder. And choosing work-life balance isn't settling or giving up. It's being intentional about building a life that actually fits you. And one, I love it. Two, I think it's so beautiful on the page, but I think a lot of us struggle in practice to do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a million and one TikToks and Instagram reels that tell us those things. But like, you worked with your partner, you went through an exercise of figuring out what that is, and you're like resisting the temptation to get pulled towards more. And so I don't even know what my question is there, but I admire it, first of all,
Thank you.
and I think it's like, is there something you could share with listeners about how you navigated that and how you continue to navigate it? Because it's an active thing. How do you continue to navigate this of enough is enough or knowing that this trades off for that? If I lean more into this, I give up more of that. Um, I'm just so curious because it just seems like you have such a calm about it, and you're very clear on what you want. And I think many people wanna arrive at that, but maybe struggle to get there.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I seem calm. There's lots of anxiety. Well, like, when I, like, lost that one job and then decided that I wanted to give freelancing a shot, I was actually applying to full-time jobs, like, at the same time, like, right away, and again, like, I was lucky to have worked for a career coach, and so I knew, like, the things to, like, help you stand out and, like, resumes and all of that kind of stuff, and so I always kind of had it in the back of my mind, like, if freelancing doesn't work out, I'm gonna try to get a full-time job elsewhere. Like, I'm the kind of person where, like, I don't wanna let other people down, especially, like, my partner in life, my husband. Like, I want to be contributing, I want us to be able to live the life that we've always lived, and so I kind of always had a plan B, so to say, in the back of my mind of, like, if this doesn't work out in the first couple of months, then I'll try to find a full-time job, and in the meantime, if I can't find a full-time job for a couple of months, I'll go do something where I know I can make money quickly, like the tutoring thing. Like, I was a teacher for 6 years, like, I have contacts with other teachers and counselors that can recommend me. Like, just finding something that you can make money quickly if you need to while you're in the in-between, like that limbo stage, I think that kept me calm, and also just, like, having an amazing supportive husband of, like, "You're miserable in this job. I don't want you to be miserable, so let's figure out what's gonna make you happy."
What a
And,
nice
like,
guy.
yeah, and, like, he's
Yeah,
very different, like,
yeah,
he loved working, he's in sales, like,
yeah,
he likes the grind, he likes the competition, I like the work-life balance, and, like, I love supporting these online businesses, and, like, when you guys, like, thrive, like, I get like, that makes me happy and all that stuff, but I also love the flexibility that comes with it, and I knew that if I wanted that kinda career, like, you just have to build it for yourself, like, nobody's gonna hand it to you, you have to make it happen.
yeah. Is there a downside to the VA? stuff?
I will say at the beginning, I was like, "Ooh, remote by myself. I'm an introvert. This is gonna be amazing." But the isolation, it does get to you a little bit. And so, like, my husband's hybrid, so he's home sometimes and I'll bug him. But sometimes, like, I just need to get out of the house. So I'll go to like a coffee shop and work there. Um, and then I wouldn't say a downside, but the learning curve of like learning different personalities you're working with definitely took a bit. And then, I mean, job security, it's not necessarily there. So that's
I don't know.
something.
I might argue with that because, like, you can't go anywhere. I was thinking it the other day. I was like, if Abby leaves, I don't know what I'm going to do because there's,
Ah,
I
well, I'm
needed to
glad
do
you say that.
something. And I mean, I used to know how to do every little thing in my business, but for,
Yeah,
you can't continue to grow a business and do that, right? You can't have your hands in everything. You have to have other people doing
right.
things. However, I don't remember what I needed to do, and I went, "Huh, I don't really know how to do that." And so I think you do have more job security than you realize because you can't never leave me. Never
Deal,
leave.
deal.
All right, so let's say that, I think some stuff has changed a little bit. So you left teaching kind of in the height of, like, it was, like, right after
2021.
COVID
Yeah,
2021, yeah, so there was, like, a massive kind of wave of people leaving the
yeah,
classroom,
a lot.
um, and in a way, especially if people were looking at corporate roles, I think that was sort of like, there was sort of this, like, gold rush of jobs out there. And I think that today, we're definitely in a different time. We've seen a lot of correction in the market from, there was a lot of hiring and many organizations realized they probably weren't incredibly responsible in how they hired. And so, as you're looking now, like, if you were you as a teacher right now, would you approach and do everything the exact same way? Would you do anything differently as if you wanted to leave the classroom today?
I mean, I again didn't kind of do the traditional pivot. So
Yeah.
I mean, it would be different than what I did if I'm trying to get a full-time job or like enter corporate or something like that. But again, it just like all comes down to like figure out what you want to do and then research and make yourself stand out. I feel like those are the biggest 3 things. And if it's something like if you want flexibility, freelancing, if you're a teacher, teaching is what you know. There are plenty of teacher influencers, there's TPT sellers. Those that's a subject matter that you know, reach out to those
Mhm.
people and explain how you can help them and help their business.
What about I like that. Yeah, and I think you're right that like a bridge almost, like looking for those bridges that you can use if you're wanting to make a move to something else, even if you're not sure, taking a step, doing some of the work that is adjacent or complementary to what you're doing and starting that and getting that engine up and running before maybe you just take a leap. Because that's what worries me today is I think that we're not seeing that ease of movement, especially into corporate for a lot of educators. It takes time. It takes time for everybody right now to find a job. And so when I'm thinking about that, I like that you had these other options for some faster paths to some money. You had a conversation with your husband. You knew where you guys were at and what needed to happen and what you couldn't flex on and all of that. And so, I mean, it sounds like you'd probably apply a lot of the same stuff you did then, even now. And I think it is pretty tried and true and time tested advice that, like you said, research the heck out of it, make yourself stand out. Um, Probably
But
is
it's
still a
also,
winning.
like, something that I, like, really resonated with when I was helping transitioning teachers in the past was, like, all teachers think that ed tech is, like, their only option. Like, they hear the buzzword ed tech and they're just like, "Well, that's what I have to do because that's all I know is education." Think about the other things that you like. Like, when I was thinking about, like, my hobbies and my interests, I was like, I'm obsessed with dogs. I grew up playing volleyball. Like, research volleyball companies or sports
Yeah.
companies or dog food brands, and then look at the job postings and, like, figure out things at those companies that do things that interest you and figure out which one works with your skills.
Yeah. I had a question written down here. What would you say to someone who feels stuck because they're not following a path that works for them? And how could they find what they wanted to do next? And I think you just covered that really well of looking at the things that you enjoy in life and not, there are so many businesses that will connect with interests, passions, areas where you have knowledge that you don't even realize you have as knowledge because it's just something like volleyball, like you said. You probably have knowledge of volleyball outside of what the average person has. So to
Right.
be able to go and lean into that space and maybe you find like a sports company that does something with that, or you find a veterinary practice. Like I've seen people look into customer success where it's for different online pet products or like a SaaS product related to pets, pet insurance, things like that, where there's things that you feel connected to. And I would love to see more people pull on those strings rather than, to your point, especially teachers saying, well, ed tech,
Right.
because I mean, yes, you can get a job in ed tech, but it is a relatively small pool. And there is so much more out there where you can leverage a lot of these skills that a lot of the things you touched on that don't have anything to do with education. They're just
Right.
skills that are your own strong skills that could apply in many different scenarios.
Well, and, like, their hobbies, like dogs and volleyball would be, like,
Yeah.
hobbies. Like, I don't
Yeah.
consider it, like, a work skill, but it's an interest, it's something I have a passion for, and, like, that's a great starting point. Like, just because you're a teacher, education is, like, what you know for work, but maybe you like gardening or something like that, like, use that.
Yeah. So tell me this, like you're here and you've got this beautiful business that you've built. And tell me maybe what is something that in the last year, when you think about all the work that you've done with these different business owners, what's something that you've learned or you've taken away from that time that is going to influence how you continue to work?
Hit me with a tough question.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to stump you with that one.
I think it goes back to, like, not everything's an emergency, and so, like, I can create the days that I want, and I've gotten to know the personalities of my different clients to the point where, like, I understand what they need from me and, like, how quickly they need it or in, like, what format they need it and, like, what works for them best, and so I can, like, set myself up and create the life I want on my end while still helping them to feel supported. Does that make sense? Does that answer your
Yeah.
question even?
Yeah, it does, it does. So I feel like I've been through a lot in my career, and I've had a couple pivots and all of that, and I was talking to my mom the other day, and I said something to the effect of, whenever you go through something that's a change and something feels like you're kind of upsetting your apple cart, so to speak, you're gonna go and do something that's unknown or a little bit wobbly and make this big change. It's oftentimes nice to look back and say, like, "What's a gift that came from that?" Or like, what have I learned or what would I have not gained had I not done this? Or, just to reflect and to spend a little time thinking about what comes from something. So maybe even picking into that a little bit more, looking back on teaching. I know teaching wasn't the right long term thing for you, but in the spirit of that idea of like gifts, there's always gifts that come from even your worst job. Like, what was a gift that came from teaching that you think, I'm glad I did that because fill in the blank?
I think I'm better with people because of that experience, just, like, being in front of students,
Mhm.
talking to colleagues, admin, that kinda thing, because I was very shy growing up, and so then I went into teaching and I like, you just gotta kinda turn it on, you have to have it on all day, and
Mhm.
so I think that, like, my ability to connect with people a little bit better than I ever expected to when I was growing up, because now, like, I can put myself out there and I can sell myself to potential clients and I can collaborate with different business owners and stuff. So I definitely think that was a gift that teaching gave me. And then also, like, I think the imposter syndrome was almost like a gift in a way. And then afterwards, like, I don't feel I don't wanna say any imposter syndrome anymore, but, like, the amount of belief that I have in myself because I, like, saw this life that I wanted and I created it for myself, and, like, I, like, think that all of my clients are very happy with me as a VA. Like, I am kind of blown away by the fact that I did that because, again, like, this shy little girl growing up, barely speaking to anybody is now just kinda, like, paving her own path, and I think that's pretty cool, so
I think you're a rock star. I do. And
so nice to
um
me.
Yeah, I do. I think, when you meet somebody and you're just like, "That person has brilliance," like, you have brilliance. And, I think you found what you're meant to do. I do.
I
So I
agree.
think I wanna wrap us up here because I could just gush about you all day and just tell everybody how wonderful, but then I'd worry someone's gonna scoop in and come steal you. So she's not that great, everybody who's thinking of
Right.
hiring her. Yeah. No, so I always ask this last question of everyone about a piece of advice that either, you've carried with you throughout your life or maybe someone has given you, but like a really good piece of advice that you carry with you that helps either guide you or has helped get you through maybe a period of time in your life that maybe you'd like to share with listeners.
I mean, I know you ask this at the end of every episode that I edit myself, and I didn't even prepare for this. I'm mad at myself. I feel like I kind of came to this realization a couple of years ago and never used to be this person, but I have since realized, like, you have one life, and if you just do the things that society expects from you and your family expects from you and the people around you think that you should be doing, like, you're not gonna enjoy your life. Like, you can go against the norm if everybody else wants to climb the corporate ladder, if everybody else wants to do this or do that, like, that doesn't mean that you have to as well. Like, pave your own path, do your own thing, and just think about what truly is gonna make you happy at the end of the day, because that's all that matters. Like, I love my life because I created a career that supports it. I feel like you say that all the time too, like, your job should, what, enable your life, not be it. I
Mhm.
think that's an
Yeah.
Erin Lewber
Yeah,
quote,
you got it. You got it.
but, like, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
You shouldn't work your life away, like, create a life that you love, and there are definitely, like, barriers to that in some situations, but do the best you can at
Yeah.
making yourself happy and don't worry about what society expects from you.
Yeah. No, you're very right, and I feel like I see a trend a little bit more and more around an increasing comfort or like a generalized acceptance of the idea that there isn't just one way.
Yeah,
However, doing it and liking a reel that talks about it are two very
right.
different things. And what we've talked about is, it didn't come without making some bold decisions. It didn't come without having some bridge or backup plans or being like, hey, this might not work. So it didn't come with certainty. And I think from my vantage point, you're reaping the rewards of betting on yourself.
Yeah,
And I'm a huge fan of betting on yourself. And if you're not confident enough to do that yet, like finding your people who can help you go through that, whether that's a partner, whether that's family, whether that's friends, like we all have someone in our lives who can kind of help us when things feel a little shaky, be like, okay, we're going to figure this out, or, you've got this, or that kind of thing. But betting on yourself is a really good bet. And I think you're living proof of that is something didn't feel right for you and you listened to it and you pulled on that thread and you're doing something that's not only sounds very satisfying to you, but you're really freaking good at. And I think you found your place. Abby, I want to say thank you so much for joining me and being a guest and joining me on the other side of the table here. You're gonna have to go edit your own episode, which I
I
was
know.
thinking
I'm
might be
usually
kind
behind
of
the
weird, like when you have to listen to your own voice
right.
recording. But thank you so much for everything, for being a guest, for being a wonderful VA. And for anybody who ever emails me or anything, you're talking to Abby, and now you've met Abby. And thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.